What if it was fundamentally impossible to be stuck? This is one of 7 contemplations that I put to you in episode 88, and today we're going to delve deeper into this profound topic. We'll look at why we're living in a fluid reality and stuckness is at a quantum level fundamentally impossible. We'll explore the exciting implications of aligning with this worldview and how that can positively impact your life. And I'll show how you can apply this in a practical sense so you can take yourself from the experience of stuckness to the experience of flow, which means you can open the doors of possibility to changing the things that have seemed unchangeable in your life to both reduce suffering and increase joy. So stay with me and let's dive in. Hit it, Kim.
Welcome to the Be a Brilliant Human podcast. You're in the right place if you're a growth-seeking being who acknowledges the challenges and delights of your humanity on the path to an ever more conscious life. If you want to feel inspired to love and accept yourself, to feel free to be and express you in all your brilliance, if you want to truly value yourself and others and feel energized and alive both at home and in the world, then sit back and take a breath as you explore and grow the brilliance of your beautiful human self with your host, the father of non-personal awareness and creator of the MPA process, Joel Young.
Hello, and welcome to the Be a Brilliant Human podcast with me, Joel Young. I am absolutely delighted that you're here. We are at episode number 90, which means you can find the show notes if you go to www.beabrillianthuman.com/90. And this episode is a deep dive off the back of episode 88, where I offered you 7 effortless contemplations to raise your vibration. So you can go back and check that episode. In fact, also the previous episode 89, was a deep delve or deep dive on the contemplation number 5 about parenting yourself. And this one today is contemplation number 2. So if you want to go back and check out 88 and get the overview of them and try out those contemplations. Also, if you're liking these deeper dives into those contemplations, if you want me to do any more of them, do let me know. I'm up for doing more if that's what you want. And you can let me know. Get in touch with me via social media. I'm at Joel Young MPA on things like Instagram and Twitter. And also, if you come to Facebook, just look for MPA Rocks. There'll always be a post which announces the podcast, and you can comment there, or you can direct message me through those mediums. And if you're looking at this, watching this, it always confuses me. It's a podcast. Listening to this on YouTube, there'll be a comment section. You can comment there. And just let me know. Let me know what you feel about these contemplations, and are you enjoying these deep dives? I would love to know. So today we're going into the realm of energy. We're looking at the fluid world versus the static world idea and how that relates to feeling and experiencing stuckness in this world, which seems to be a real thing, right? But what if it's not? We're going to explore that today. And also we'll be talking a bit about MPA. So as ever, if you listen to this show regularly, you know you can go to Joel Young MPA, or the show notes, mpa.com, as in joelyoungmpa.com, or the show notes. You can download the MPA process sheet for free, and we'll be using that later when we come into the practical stuff. All right, I think that's enough for the intros. Let's get into the quantum physics of why stuckness is fundamentally impossible. So the specific notion that I asked you to contemplate in episode 88 is that at a quantum level, everything is in motion. The stuckness fundamentally is impossible. So if you allow yourself to really engage in this idea, and it's something which can be deeply profound. But where does it come from? Well, the word quantum is your clue, really. So I always go to, the quantum physics or quantum mechanics, if you prefer to call it that, is kind of an evolution of science. We had Newtonian physics, where there are certain laws based on the idea of solid and separate reality. And then the quantum physicists came in, and a lot of science is about describing the nature of reality. And we've gone from like, some of the early ideas of what reality was about, like the world is flat, for example, was an idea. It was way, in quotes, science of the day said this is how we make sense of our world. And it's got more and more refined over time. And really, quantum physics and quantum mechanics has been around for, over 100 years now. And is very much established. In fact, it's starting to impact how, in terms of the practical applications using quantum physics ideas and some of the technologies we've got and how we understand them. It all comes from this idea of, the quantum model. And the basis of the quantum model is that everything is energy. We experience our reality based on forces at play, which are based on waves of energy. And it's kind of a bit mind-blowing when you think about it, but why I'm saying that everything is in motion, well, for a start, that's what they say, the quantum physicists. But it's because if you think about a wave, if you think about a sort of classic child's picture of a wave, it sort of goes up and then it goes down and it goes up and then it goes down. It's actually going up and down. But the word vibration probably helps you to visualize more the fact that a wave is constantly in motion. So there is this sense of motion always happening, but it sort of boggles the mind as well. It's got this fluid kind of sense about it, this wave sense about it. But, we kind of have an experience of solidness in the world. It's a bit of a mind F. And putting that aside for a moment, also one of the other things that the quantum physicists say is that the universe is constantly expanding. And an expansion in and by itself is an act of movement. So from both of those perspectives, that statement that, at quantum level, everything is in motion is kind of a truism. So, but then it might seem like a bit of a leap to say that stuckness is fundamentally impossible, but you have to come into the awareness of this movement is inherent to all of existence. So to explain the apparent paradox of that, you have to understand how these sort of energy matrices work and how it creates apparent solidness or apparent form, you could say, because you could say the existence of this table that is in front of me. I'm going to knock it. It's a wooden table, I just tapped it. That's pretty damn solid. And solidness, it's like it's not really moving. You can't see it moving. It's not running around the kitchen. It's solid. You could argue it's stuck where it is, right? But it appears that way. The reason that my knuckle can tap against it and it feels really solid is because the way that those waves work is that by their vibration, they create a certain solidity. And I use this little analogy, which I love, on episode 88, but I'll repeat it here, which is that if you imagine like a cyclone, a tornado, like a twister, if you like, that's got no dust in it at all, it would in fact be invisible. It's just pure empty air wind, but it's acting in a way which it's moving at high speed. And if you drove a car into that in the middle of the road, the car would act as if it's hitting concrete. Now, it looks like a vortices, but that's kind of how the energy forms into different forces. Forces create effectively tiny little whirlwinds, which in effect give us the sense of solidness. But just like the tornado, it's fully in movement. Even though it feels like a concrete wall hitting it in the car, the fact is it is in motion. So another way to think about this, if you look back at vibration, so vibration, going back to its basics, if you think about waves, it's up and then it's down. It's this side, then that side, this side, then that side. And it can create an illusion of something very static. So I want you to imagine that on a piece of wire that goes through a spoke, on the top of that there are two pieces of card directly beside each other. On one side you've got half the moon painted on one side, and on the other side, facing the other way, facing the same way, you've got the another half of the moon. I hope I've got my visuals right here. So we've got one half on one side, one half on the other. If you look straight on and start to twist it around at high speed, if they're lined up, it wouldn't have to go very fast before your eye would see the whole of the moon. So even though you've got one half on one side and one half on the other side, the visual impact, the experience of it would be, you'd say, oh, I'm just looking at the whole of the moon. But that is effectively what vibration does. You've got up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But it can create the experience of a single static moon. So that's kind of, and you would look at that and go, is it stuck or is it moving? Well, it's kind of both, but the truth of it and the thing that is helpful is to go, it's actually moving. It's spinning around at some sort of colossal speed. So the invitation here is to sort of really entertain this idea that fundamentally we live in a fluid world. We live in a world that is constantly moving. And then you might say to me, well, it's a bit of a leap to go from that to, we don't get stuck. Well, the experience of stuckness is just buying the illusion. And that's kind of okay. But I want to talk a bit about when you go with yes, I'm stuck versus actually movement is here. It has quite the impact. So if it's just an idea, what difference does that make? You could say, the fact is I'm stuck. But the ideas that you align with do actually have a profound impact on your experience. So if you say, okay, Joel, I know that there's little vortices and waves and stuff and they're moving, but I feel stuck, therefore I am stuck, then you're aligning with that idea. You're saying, I agree, I am stuck. Now, if you're thinking I'm stuck, just feel it. Feel what it feels like when you go, yeah, I'm stuck. I don't care about quantum mechanics. I'm just stuck. Versus if you get the same situation and go, okay, I'm experiencing the illusion or the effect of apparent stuckness, but actually I'm going to go with the idea that movement is happening. I'm actually in motion. Just feel it. It's like, actually, I know it seems like I'm stuck, but I'm in motion. Fundamentally, motion and movement is happening. You see, half the battle when you feel stuck is this idea that I have to get unstuck, and it can feel like the stuckness itself grabs around you and prevents any movement. But at any point, if you align with the idea of I'm already in motion, it makes a big difference, straightforwardly in terms of how you feel. But also, if you come back to the energetics of it, it also has an impact. It's like I think of pictures in my mind. I go back to like Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay, and as a boxer, what was the thing? Something like a butterfly stings like a bee, flies like a butterfly, stings like a bee is what it was. Because he was famous, he was, much lighter and seemingly at odds with the other heavyweight boxers, but he would always keep moving. He would like dance around the boxing ring. And that would give him an advantage, because the reality is that moving something that's already moving is a lot easier than moving something which is stationary or stuck. And that's true on a physical level. I mean, in terms of, if you talk about it in terms of Newtonian physics, they would say that the coefficient of static friction is higher than the coefficient of kinetic friction. Static being something still, kinetic being something that's moving. So in a way, it takes less energy to move something that's already moving. Now, a lot of what we do in terms of our mindsets is we are tapping into the same energetic forces. So if you can get your mind to align with movement, it's a lot easier then to move things, as opposed to aligning it with the idea of staticness or stuckness. And then it takes a lot more energy to change things. And the other thing about aligning with the idea of stuckness over movement, which of course is your prerogative, is if you think about just the whole idea of I'm stuck or stuckness, it's like it's like some part of you is not open to learning or open to, I mean, at a fundamental level, because we can say to ourselves, I'm stuck. Of course I'm open to learning, but really I'm aligned with stuckness, so I'm stuck. There's not an openness there to learn and to change. So, and then you end up with the sort of confirmation bias of stuckness. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, really, of staying stuck. So everything that you see and experience proves that you're stuck, prove that it's there. Whereas if you really commit to aligning with movement, then that same cycle is going to work, or that same trend is going to work in your favor, because you'll start to see movement where things are moving, where you're beginning to move, where there's openness to change, where change is happening. And inevitably through that chain of sort of mental, emotional, physical action kind of process, you'll start to do things differently, think things differently. And then whatever that apparent stuckness was will inevitably morph into some expression of the movement that you're aligning with. So the power of this notion, if you choose to embrace it, really is to shift from aligning yourself with an experience of stuckness versus a reality, or the reality that movement is happening. So in a sense, what this is all about is letting your brain catch up with what's the reality of what's happening, as opposed to the appearance of what's happening. Again, going back to my idea of two spinning pictures, both sides of the moon can appear like a static moon, but aligning with movement gives you a connection to movement, and that's inevitably going to help you. So how can you use this on a practical level? I decided I'd offer you some practical approaches. Well, I mean, in the most basic form, just if you feel or having the experience of stuckness, you can just stop and breathe and go inside and literally contemplate this notion, and just really allow in this sense that movement is happening. It doesn't mean that you dismiss the experience of stuckness, like you're experiencing it, like I'm experiencing myself as stuck. That doesn't mean that stuckness is the reality of what's happening. That in itself can already, as I said before, open you into finding the movement, aligning with the movement, and it helps you to then begin to experience movement out of what previously seemed like impossible stuckness. But also because, hey, I'm the creator and custodian of MPA. MPA is a fantastic tool for getting you out of stuckness and back into flow. So NPA, in case you're new here and going, what the heck is he talking about? What's this NPA? It stands for non-personal awareness, and it's a perfect tool because it really embraces the everything is energy idea and does it in a way which allows you to offer that in relation to whatever is going on. So it brings that energetic, frictionless perspective into whatever's going on. Now, most people meet it as a simple way to stop taking things personally. But deeper than that is it's something which works, I would say, at an identity level, because it's shifting these senses of who we are. I am stuck is identifying with the idea of stuckness, right? And what it does is a simple 6-line spoken word process. Again, you can download the process, go to the show notes for today, www.beabrillianthuman.com/90, or go to joelyoungmpa.com and you can download the process and just play with it. So the reason I bring up identities is because, in a sense, an identity, I am stuck. Anywhere you put an I am, you've got identity, and there's lots more to it than that. But an identity seems like a fixed thing, right? It is effectively like having a holding pattern. So, and it's that holding pattern which is like that spinning moon or the experience of a table. It's a set form. It's like where the pattern repeats itself in such a way as it appears solid. So a lot of the time we get stuck because these identities are holding us in that place. So when you do the MPA process, how it works is that you start by finding out what the phrase is, the word, I call it a cookie cutter in MPA. You find out what it is and you put it into what is a blank space within those 6 simple lines. Again, if you download the sheet, it'll become much clearer what you need to do. But the thing is, each of those is like an identity. Each one is like a stuckness, something which is in a holding pattern. And as you go through it, then through the process itself, it opens you into this neutral presence, really. It's the state which aligns with the energetic perspective and therefore naturally incites movement. That's really what it does. So if you feel stuck, yes, you can just stop and contemplate the notion. That can be truly profound. But if you meet it with MPA, you just go, I feel stuck, and then go ahead and follow the instructions on the process sheet when you download it. You literally need to say the words out loud once you found the keyword, or the cookie cutter as I call it, and put it into the blank space within those lines. It's truly a powerful experience to take you out of that stuckness and into flow. So my invitation to you today is to try this. Try it out. Whether you just sit and contemplate the notion in a deep way, find an area in your life where you got this idea, or you're aligning with the idea that you're stuck, and contemplate the notion that fundamentally everything is in motion and stuckness is impossible. Or grab the MPA process if you haven't already got it, and just follow the instructions and just see where it takes you. And do let me know. As I said, you can get in touch on the various social media platforms. Also on the beabrillianthuman.com website, you can even hit the button there that says leave a message and leave me a message direct on there. Or again on YouTube, leave a comment. On Facebook, leave a comment. Just let me know. I'd love to hear what you experience when you try this out. And what are your views on the nature of reality? Fluid or stuck or solid? What's this brought up for you? I would love to hear from you. Let me know. And speaking of letting me know, if you like this, what you've heard, or these shows in general, do me a solid and tell someone about it. I'd love you to share the show and word of mouth saying, hey, this is a great show. Go onto your podcast platform, whether it's Spotify, Google, Apple, wherever you listen to this or wherever they listen to this, even YouTube, they can go ahead and just use the search engine there and find the Be a Brilliant Human podcast. I would love if you did that. That's me. I think that's a wrap for today. Thanks so much for being here. It's always a privilege to be in your ears in some form or other. Big love. Have a great week, and I will see you next time. So all that remains is to cue the moon.